Shalom. So today we're going to talk about Genesis chapter 1 and verse 9. How did the elements create the earth? But before we get into that, we're going to talk about four aspects of this lesson. The first thing is we're going to understand theoretical science as opposed to actual science, because a lot of us don't really understand the difference, right? We're also going to talk about different states of matter. We're going to talk about how the 22 letters of the Hebrew language, along with the elements earth, air, water, fire, and spirit, because that is what pervades them, how they shape our reality, how they create our reality, how they form everything that we see. So, when you're dealing with theoretical science or actual science, what do you refer to as science? Science is just another word for knowledge. Science is nature, so it means it has to be natural, right? For example, says science equals nature, right? And what comes from nature, when the Most High said, observe nature, there is knowledge that is embedded in what is manifested, right? Now, this knowledge is not the same as what we perceive as information. Knowledge is knowingness, but there's also an action form to the knowledge. So, knowledge is also action, and that action is nature. So, there's a cycle. We can look up in the heavens, we see things, things manifest, and we know that that's nature, that's knowledge. So that's actual science, right? Now, we have a lot of theories that we have never proven to be true or not. We just accept them. That is not knowledge. That is not science. Those are just theories. So if I say, for example, if you take a seed and you plant it in the earth, what's going to happen is the seed is going to produce roots, and then afterwards it's going to germinate at the top of the surface, and then it starts to grow in a plant, right? Now, that is knowledge for me, but it's what you would say as information for you. Until you have proven it, it's going to be what you call information, or it's going to be a belief. How are you going to prove that that belief is true? For example, in science class, they used to teach us that having an object here, having another light here, and going around in circles is used to demonstrate how the the light, so the sunlight works with the earth. But that's not true. That's just a theory, right? Because the earth is not spinning. So those are theory. So there's a difference between actual science and theoretical science. Actual science is of the Most High. All these theories, they have nothing to do with the Most High. So now that that is out of the way, the next thing we're going to look into is states of matter. Now, when you go to the book of Genesis, chapter 1 and verse 2, it says, matter of fact, let's start at verse 1. It says, in the beginning, God created the heaven and the earth was without form and void, and darkness was upon the face of the deep, and the Spirit of God moved upon the face of the waters. Now, when you think of the different states of matter, water or liquid, water is the basic principle or the basic form of all these different states. For example, when you add cold to water, it gets solid, it goes into freezing. Just as it says, the north wind blows and congeal the ice, right? So adding cold to water, it goes into solid. Now, what happens when you add heat? What happens when there's summertime? You add heat to water, to ice, it goes back to liquid form. So you have solid and liquid. But what happens when you add more heat above certain degrees? You go into a gas state. And if you add more heat, you go into plasma. So everything can be broken down from there. So this is why it talks about the water. This is why it talks about the waters. So the next thing is we're going to look at the Hebrew letters and how they create our reality, right? Now the question is, what if you had a chance to go back and redefine some words? Would you do it or would you not do it? For example, when you hear the term natural disaster, what comes to your mind? Think of it. Natural disaster. What comes to your mind? Do you see God in the equation? Now, after the end of this explanation, go back and look at your definition or your thoughts about natural disaster and redefine it to according to your understanding, right? Because we're going to see God or we're going to see reality in all of these operations. So before we go to the forming of the earth, we're going to deal with the letters of the Hebrew language. Now, for example, when you look at the English letters A, B, C, D, E, for example, these you have all these different sounds, right? Now, but when you come here to the Hebrew, what you'll notice is there's one thing that is prominent with all the letters: A, Ba, Ga, Da, Ha, and so on, right? Now, what is the meaning of in the Hebrew? Let's take a word, for example, Adam. You take the word Adam, what does mean? R, R represents the spirit, strength, leader, etc. The letter D, Da, is door, pathway, entrance. The letter Ma represents water, chaos, life, flow, right? Now, what you can see here is there's a spiritual side to Adam and there's a physical side, right? So these letters are not just letters, but they carry what? A spiritual energy. And when these things are combined, they create words. And then when these words are pronounced, are spoken, they create reality. So every letter carries a spiritual energy or a spiritual form to it. So when we say ah, ba, ga, da, the one sound you always hear is ah, the strong leader, the spirit of the Most High. So with the Hebrew language, because each letter carried their own reality, you don't have to go to use a dictionary to get an understanding of what you're looking for. So in the word Adam, it carries all the detail. So the meaning of each letter, as you have here, that's part of it. Now, each letter, they have their own shape. For example, when you look at the A, it says the strength, the strong leader. What is the strongest animal? The cow is used as a representation. So this is why you look at the A, it looks like this. Like when two cows are yoked together. plowing. There's a strong leader. The cow is the strongest animal. So that's where this comes from. So it has a shape to it as well. And the shape is also giving you a definition, just like the D. It shapes like the door of a tent. It shapes like a door. D, the entrance of a tent. Now, also with the Hebrew language, what it carries is value, numbers, right? Most of you were taught that numerology is witchcraft. Really? So when you look at the Hebrew language, the Ah is the spirit of Adam, and the Dam is the physical side. This word Dam means blood. The blood comes from the parents, right? The mother and the father. Now, when you look at mother, Ama, and father, Abba, the value of the A is 1, 1. The value of the Ma is 40. So that's 41. The father, Abba, A is 1, Ba is 2. 1 plus 2 is 3. 41 plus 3 equal 44. When you go back up here, Dam is 4, number 4. 4 plus Ma, which is 40, equals 44. So the numerical value ties in with the spiritual energy, with everything that is contained in the Hebrew letters, and these create our reality. So no, numerology has nothing to do with witchcraft in this sense. So this was just to give you an example of the power that is within the Hebrew language, but when we don't speak that anymore, we're using different words that does not contain the power of the Most High. This is why it says, in the beginning was the Word, and the Word was with God, and the Word was God. The Word itself was power. The Word itself had spiritual energy. So the first thing that the Most High created, when you go back to Genesis 1 and verse 1, and it says, in the beginning, God created the heaven and the earth. There's something contained in here. There's something in here, which is the Ah and Tha. That's the first letter of the Hebrew alphabet and the last letter. So the first thing the Most High created was 22 letters that carry the spiritual force of the Most High, of His essence. And when you put them together, you get words, and those words carry the same power or the same force. And out of these 22 letters, from the A to the Tha, our reality, or the world that we know today, was created. This is why when He speaks, things manifest. And what manifests is in a natural form, which is called nature. Now, what you call natural disaster is something that is like a destruction. But how do you perceive destruction? Because in destruction, what is also happening? Creation. So it's a process. So if you go back to look at what you call natural disaster and you start to see the Most High in that, then there's a different thing. It will change your outlook on good and evil, your concept of good and evil. You will start to see the essence of the Most High working. Now let us go to the book of Hebrews, chapter 11 and verse 3. It says, Through faith, we understand that the worlds were framed by the word of God, so that the things which are seen were not made of things which do appear. And that's the problem with a lot of us. We trust in appearances. We only trust what we see before us. It doesn't matter if there's a reality to it. We ignore the process. We trust we trust in our perceptions of reality rather than the understanding. Faith comes with understanding. Let us go to the book of Proverbs, chapter 4, and verse 7. It says, wisdom is the principal thing, therefore get wisdom, and with all thy getting, get understanding. So your faith has to be based on understanding, not blind faith as these people have today. Don't want to question your belief. You have a theory in your mind, you don't want to question it because you don't want to see that there is no reality to it. You want to hold on to the theory that a baby was born, but it has nothing to do with a seed fertilizing an egg. You want to hold on to that ideology. You don't want it to be questioned. You don't want to face that belief to see whether there is reality to it or to see whether there is God in the equation, right? So we have to get understanding because that's going to be the foundation of our faith or what we hold to be true. Now let us go to the book of Genesis, chapter 1, and verse 9. And God said, let the waters under the heaven be gathered together unto one place, and let the dry land appear. And it was so. So this is the Most High speaking. Now, how a lot of us understand this chapter is we just read in the beginning God, God, and then we just accept everything. It doesn't matter how much it sounds like a myth. We just accept it because it says God at the top, right? But nature is the cloth that the Most High wears so that we can see His works. He said He created trees. You'd have to go outside, you see the trees, so you understand that. He said He talks about the dry land. How does that work? No, that's what we're gonna look into. So we have earth, air, water, fire, and we have the spirit which pervades them all. Right? Now, let us read it again. It says, and God said, let the waters under the heaven be gathered together unto one place, and let the dry land appear. And it was so. And God called the dry land earth. So earth is the dry land. That what you're standing on right now is called earth. Now, a lot of people, what they do with theoretical science, they'll take you, they'll show you this image on the screen and say all of that is earth. No, but the Most High said He divided the earth from the heavens. He divided the earth from the seas. So if the Most High divided the earth and the seas, why do we call everything together earth? He said the dry land is earth. So the rocks, what you call bedrock at the bottom of the ocean, that's not what the Most High refers to as dry land. That's bedrock. Yes, there are rocks down there, but that's not the same as dry land that you walk on. Just like when they parted the Red Sea and they were going through, they went across on what? Dry land. But what if you go out in the water and you're walking on the rocks down there? Would you say you're actually walking on dry land? No, you're walking on bedrock. It's not the same. You don't sow your seeds down there. You don't plant your trees and your seeds and they grow. It's not the same. But you're gonna see how from these rocks he created dry land. Now, how this process works? Verse 10 says, "And God called the dry land earth." So all the rocks down there that keeps the body of water, the different bodies of water together, those are just rocks, bed rocks. The waters that come above the surface is dry land. That is what he calls earth. He created heaven and the earth. The earth is not heaven. Heaven is not earth. The Most High divided them. So we have to always stick with this understanding that the Most High divides everything in two. Matter of fact, let's get that in the book of Ecclesiasticus, chapter 33 and verse 15. It says, "So look upon all the works of the Most High, and there are two and two, one against another." So polar opposites, right? Just like you have fire and water. You have fire and water, day and night, summer and winter, hot and cold, right? So let us go back to the Genesis chapter 1 and verse 10. It says, "And God called the dry land earth." So now he names the dry land earth. "And the gathering together of the waters called he seas. And God saw that it was good." So dry land, seas, the Most High separated them, right? No, no, in forming the earth, when the Most High spoke, there was a process taking place. So the rocks at the bottom of the ocean, what was happening? Fire was coming out of these rocks, which today you call it lava, right? Like when there's a volcanic eruption from underwater, you have this fire, this lava coming out, and it keeps going out into the water and it keeps spreading and it keeps rising and rising. So it doesn't matter how deep the ocean is, it keeps going up. So when this reaches close to the surface of the ocean, you find out that the pressure is less. So the explosion is going to be very huge, it's going to be very big. So this is how the earth was formed. So with the magma mixing with the water, when it's exposed to the air, it cools down after a while. So this, what was liquid rocks before, now forms back into what? Solid rocks. Now these happen to be above the surface of the water, and that's what you call dry land. So now there's a division between the rocks that are above the water and the rocks that are beneath the surface of the water. The ones that are above is called earth. This is the ones where you grow your trees and you do all these things. Fountains of water comes out and so forth, right? So back to the volcanic eruption underwater. This is why in some mountains that are very cold, you'll find hot springs. What is causing the heat, right? So yes, so this is how the earth was formed. This is the process. So what happens is once we understand there's a process, it's not just the Most High saying abracadabra and boom, earth. Abracadabra, boom, trees, right? There's always a process to how he operates. So what we need to do is go back to our root language, Hebrew language, or go back to our understanding, the basis of our understanding, and start to redefine words and their meanings so that once we say something, there's actual understanding in what we're saying. Because when there's no understanding, it seems as if we're speaking mythologically. So there's always a process. In destruction, there's creation. So, for example, when you take a seed and you sow it in the earth, right? The outer shell falls away, but what is inside that grows into a plant. So there's destruction and there's creation, right? This is the book of First Corinthians chapter 15 and verse 36. It says, "Thou fool, that which thou sowest is not quickened except it die. And that which thou sowest not that body that shall be, but bear a grain, it may chance of wheat or of some other grain. But God giveth it a body as it hath pleased him, and to every seed his own body." So when you take a seed and you put it in the earth, guess what? The outer shell falls away, as it says, except it dies, right? And then that which is inside, that is what grows into the plant. You don't have control over that part. You can only sow the seed. So what nature is showing you, that in destruction there is creation. So once we start to get an understanding of the Hebrew language, it is to shape our reality. And we need to start what? Involving the Most High in everything. So when you start to see all these what you call natural disaster, you should be seeing the works of the Most High. Flood, they say flooding is a natural disaster, right? But flooding can also be a blessing, because there can be two people about to go to war, or one person set out to kill another person, but the Most High wants to protect that person, so he sends this heavy rain, right? Heavy rain, thunders, lightnings, but it was just to protect one man. But what others may see is that, oh, such a heavy rain, I cannot do my business, I cannot go here, go there. We don't really see the blessings of the Most High, that, okay, he just spared someone, probably. It's the same thing with hurricanes, right? Hurricanes, natural disaster. But we don't see that, okay, the wicked had sent out a virus, a plague that was supposed to go to these people over there. But these people don't deserve that judgment. So what? The Most High send the hurricane and do what? Change that. So that what we were supposed to breathe in to be sick, we don't. Rough sea. Oh, rough sea is a natural disaster. No, we were short of fishes. So the rough sea came, and guess what? It brought the fishes from the south to where we are. So now you go out and you throw your nets, you throw your fish pots, you throw your lines, you have a lot of fish. So how much do we see the Most High, the works of the Most High in these things that we call natural disaster, or what they told us was natural disaster? We need to start seeing the essence of the Most High in everything. I hope this gives clarity, especially on the aspect of understanding the Hebrew language and the power it contains. It contains the power of the Most High. Shalom.